How well do you know your neck? Not that one, you silly sausage. This one. Learning your way around the entire guitar neck is without a doubt one of the most daunting tasks when it comes to mastering the guitar. Honestly, guys, you'd be surprised at the sheer number of seasoned guitar players out there who have been playing for years and years and years, but still don't know their way around the guitar neck. But what is the best way to learn this seemingly monumental task? So today, I'm going to be showing you the method that I use to teach the guitar neck that's super easy and super quick because it relies on knowledge that you probably already have. The only prerequisites for this method is that you're at least, fairly acquainted with the notes on the bottom two strings, the E and the A strings, and that you know what a major and minor scale are. So let's get stuck in, shall we? So we're going to strip things right back and start at octaves. Like I said earlier, this lesson assumes that you're already familiar with the notes of the bottom two strings, okay? The E and the A string. And honestly, even if that's all you know, like just the notes of the bottom two strings, then you already actually know a lot more than you might think, because you can use octaves to find other notes across the fretboard. So we know our open E string is an E, of course, and if you go 2 frets up onto the D string, you get an octave. So you have an E here, you have an E here, and if you go up again to 2 strings up and 3 frets up, you get another E here. And of course, you have the open E at the top as well. Because of course, everything that's on this string will also be mirrored on the top string because they're both E. Okay, so just by using this very basic knowledge of octaves, you already have 4 different E's, okay, just from knowing that this is an E. And this also works on the A string. So you should know that our E on the A string is here at the 7th fret. And so you can apply the same shape as we had earlier. We go 2 strings up and 2 frets up, which is 9th fret on the G string, and 2 strings up and 3 frets up. We've got our high E on the 12th fret on the E string. So just with this very basic knowledge of octaves, look how many E's we've got. Look at that. All of the E's, so that's every single E that's contained within this first half of the neck, okay, within this whole 12 frets of the guitar. Alrighty, so the goal of this method is to quickly identify where all the notes are of a particular key on the guitar neck. So in this instance, we're going to be using the key of E minor as our reference point. So our first step is to identify whereabouts our E minor box shapes are. And to do that is very easy. You just have to basically identify whereabouts the E minor bar chords are, because our box shapes are just going to be literally around the bar chord shapes. So hopefully you know this already. We have an E minor shape here, and we have an E minor shape here on the A string at the 7th fret, and we have the octave here. Very easy. So now that we've identified where our E minor chords are, the next step would be to develop them into individual notes. And the easiest way to do that, of course, is our good old E minor pentatonic scale. So I'm assuming you all know the box 1 E minor pentatonic shape. Alright, so that's by far the easiest way to start developing notes in our box. And then the next one up is our shape here at the A string, around this bar chord. So you may or may not know this shape, but it's basically the same thing, but just sort of like transposed upper string. So we're starting at this E here on the A string instead, and it goes like this. And then our third chord was here, which is exactly the same as this one we had down here, but an octave up. So we just play the same scale, but here an octave up. So now you can see we have our E minor pentatonic scale in 3 different places on the neck. We have it here, here, and here. So what you'll find is that many players who haven't really sort of like developed their knowledge of the neck too much, these will be the places that they sort of like stick to a lot of the time. I mean, you know what I mean, right? You'll see players that sort of solo here. And maybe they'll sort of like venture down here a little bit. And maybe they'll like even venture down here to mix things up. So these are like your very, very basic fundamental solo positions, right? When you're playing rock or metal guitar, which is all well and good, but I mean, it's pretty obvious what the problems are. You have like these three shapes, but you have these like sort of gaping chasms in between each position that you're not really using. So like you're ignoring, I don't know, like at least half of the fretboard if you just sort of stick to these root positions. And from my experience as a teacher, this is where most people are at, who are like, I don't know, high beginners to medium sort of intermediate players. They're like very, very solid at playing or improvising or whatever, like at these root positions, but when they're sort of asked to bridge the gap between them and play the bits, you know, in between these root positions, they just sort of like be like, whoa, I don't understand, I don't know what to do. And that, my friends, is where our next step comes in. So, the key to bridging these gaps very easily is through the use of relative chords. If you're not sure what relative chords are, then I'm going to give you a brief rundown now. Okay, so every chord has what you call a relative counterpart. This basically just means that they're built from the notes of the same scale. Every major chord has a relative minor chord, and thusly every minor chord has a relative major chord. To find the relative major chord of a minor chord, you simply go up a tone and a half, or 3 frets. And thusly, to find the relative minor chord of a major chord, you simply go down a tone and a half, or 3 frets. For example, E minor and G major are relative, A minor and C major are relative, B minor and D major are relative, etc., etc. If you examine the notes of E minor and G major, you can see that they're very close to being the same. They both contain the notes G and B, and the extra note, E or D in this case, is only a tone difference. But what does this mean? Essentially, you can use relative chords and scales interchangeably. So if you're in the key of E minor, as well as obviously being able to use the notes of the E minor scale, you can also use the notes of the G major scale, as it's exactly the same. Hopefully, the cogs are turning in your head right now about how you can use this to your advantage in your playing. You essentially double the amount of real estate you can cover on the fretboard if you bolt on the relative major or minor scale to your root major or minor scale. So, as mentioned, the relative major chord of E minor is G major. So, just like how we developed our E minor positions, now we can do the same with G major. So all we do, like how we identified where our E minor chords are, we just have to identify where our G major chords are as well. So you should know that you have a G major bar chord here, and you have a G major bar chord here. 3rd fret on the E string, and 10th fret on the A string. And now, if you add that to our E minor chords, you can already see that we're starting to use quite a bit more of the neck. And it's not just like these big jumps now. It's not like just like 1, 2, 3. We've got like these intermediary positions in between them. But what's next? Yes, you guessed it. Just like how we developed our chords into notes by using the minor pentatonic scale, we're going to be doing exactly the same thing with the G major chords as well, but with the major pentatonic scale instead. So like a G minor pentatonic scale will be this. G major pentatonic scale will become this. So we're using exactly the same intervals, the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th, but instead of like, you know, the ones from the minor scale, we're using it from the major scale instead. So that's what it looks like in this position from the E string. From the A string in this position, it's exactly the same thing, but upper string, and obviously the notes here on the B string shift up. So that is your 2 G major pentatonic shapes here and here in both positions. And now what you'll notice is if we play our E minor pentatonic scales going up and put our G major pentatonic scales in between, you'll see how much more of the neck we're already using. So hopefully you can see what we've done there. We've literally just taken the relative major scale and just stuck it in between the different positions of our E minor pentatonic scale. So it creates this pattern of minor scale, relative major scale, minor scale, relative major scale, minor scale. So what this hack enables you to do really is just play the notes of the E minor scale, over and over again in different positions all the way up the neck without having to use like a billion different scale positions up the neck, right? Like if you were to use like the different, diatonic mode shapes and all that. You're literally just using the root position of the minor and major pentatonic scales, in two different places. So you're basically just using this super basic knowledge that you already have, but in a clever way, which enables you to, make maximum use of the fretboard. Alrighty, so the next step is to do exactly the same thing, but instead of playing our 2-note per string pentatonic scales, we're going to turn them into fully fledged 3-note per string minor and major scales, okay? Just to fill in all those extra notes that we've missed so far. So we start off with our E minor scale down here, strictly sticking to a 3-note per string pattern for consistency. And then we go to our G major scale here, starting from the E string. And then we have our E minor scale here, starting from the A string, 7th fret. And then we have our G major scale, starting here from the 10th fret on the A string. And then we're back home to our E minor scale, 12 frets up from where we started. And end on the E, just for closure. So conceptually, this is no different to what we were doing before. We're just filling out the notes using regular 7-note major and minor scales instead of 5-note pentatonic scales. We're still starting them from exactly the same position. Our E minor starts here, our G major starts here, E minor starts here, G major starts here, and end on E minor here. So all that's left now really is to tie them together seamlessly so that it doesn't just feel like, a scale here, a scale here, a scale here, a scale here. We want to put them into practice and have like a proof of concept to show that even though we're using 2 separate scales stitched together, the way we're doing it in context is technically all just one, like it's really all just E minor. So I've made a very short little backing track that you can practice this over just so you can sort of get a feel for how you fit these together. It also gives us a chance to fill in those few remaining notes which we've missed, because even though this is a sick method to join scales together, to use more of the fretboard, there are still like a couple of blind spots which you do sort of like gloss over due to how the scales are laid out. But if we join them together properly, it gives us a chance to fill those in, as you'll see right now. And there you have it, guys, my super cool, well, now not so top secret method on how I combine major and minor relative chords to practically double the amount of real estate you can cover on the neck, thus immensely speeding up your neck knowledge learning curve. Please do feel free to drop me a comment below if you have any questions. And be sure to head on over to my online guitar school at the link in the description below. You can now sign up for free and get instant access to a whole load of other awesome lessons and exercises like this very one. Cheers, guys, and happy shredding!